Welcome back to our channel. If you haven't seen part 1, the link is in the description below. Make sure to check it out first. Today we're continuing the intense vampire romance story, where Roy faces political consequences and his relationship with Xiaoxin deepens dramatically. As we left off, Roy was denied entry to the noble vampire ball due to his missing badge. The doorman refuses to let him pass, despite Roy's protest that he's a candidate for the Council of Elders and that stopping him would be a grave mistake. Other vampires mock Roy openly, claiming he's not a true noble, but merely a common vampire without proper credentials. Roy finds this strange, since entry was previously granted based on recognition alone, not badge verification. He begins to suspect that someone is orchestrating a plot to remove him from candidacy for the Council of Elders. Suddenly, Roy is summoned before the Council of Elders themselves. They confront him with a harsh reality. If he cannot protect a simple badge, how can he be trusted with the responsibilities of their high office? Roy insists someone is conspiring against him, but the council responds coldly. If he cannot prevent such plots, he's unfit for leadership. Roy promises to retrieve his badge within 24 hours, knowing that failure means the end of his political aspirations forever. Meanwhile, Sin brings Xiaoxin inside the ball venue and goes to find Roy. When they meet, Roy asks about the badge's status. Sin reveals that everything is proceeding according to their plan and that he's brought Xiaoxin to assist them. This news doesn't please Roy, who immediately goes to find Xiaoxin. She encounters Sinai at the ball and asks to speak with him privately. Away from the crowd, Xiaoxin directly accuses Sinai of stealing Roy's badge. Sinai doesn't deny it, instead arguing that Roy's inability to protect the badge proves his incompetence. He claims that even if Roy recovers the badge now, his reputation is permanently damaged. Sinai goes further, suggesting that Roy has no political future and that Xiaoxin should abandon him and choose Sinai instead. At that crucial moment, Roy appears and pulls Xiaoxin away from Sinai's grasp. Roy's eyes are immediately drawn to Xiaoxin's beauty, and he stares at her with obvious admiration. Just then, an elder approaches their group. In a perfectly timed moment, the stolen badge falls from Sinai's pocket in full view of everyone present. Roy demands an explanation for why Sinai possesses his badge. Unable to provide a satisfactory answer, Sinai is summoned before the Council of Elders. In desperation, Sinai accuses Xiaoxin of fraudulently planting the badge in his pocket. However, Roy protects her by embracing Xiaoxin and telling Sinai to remain silent. The truth is revealed. This was an elaborate plan orchestrated by Roy and Sin. They had already discovered the badge in Sinai's room, but used Xiaoxin to plant it on him publicly, ensuring witnesses to his guilt. The elder orders Sinai's removal from candidacy and his deportation back to his home country. As Sinai is led away, he can only praise Roy's cunning. Since Xiaoxin feels uncomfortable around so many vampires, Roy leads her away from the ball to the peaceful fountain in the palace gardens. Under the moonlight, Roy asks her to dance with him. As they move together gracefully, Xiaoxin asks Roy if more people will conspire against him in the future. When Roy asks if she's worried about him, Xiaoxin blushes and admits she doesn't want to cause him any more trouble. Overcome by the romantic atmosphere and her genuine concern, Roy begins kissing Xiaoxin passionately. Unknown to them, Maya witnesses this intimate scene and leaves, consumed by jealousy. Roy brings Xiaoxin back to the palace and gently places her on the bed, where their romantic encounter continues. The next morning, Xiaoxin awakens to find Roy lying beside her and asks what he's doing there. Roy reminds her about the previous night's events. Embarrassed, Xiaoxin tries to escape, but Roy catches her and pulls her into his arms. During breakfast, Roy personally feeds her at the table, behavior that completely surprises Xiaoxin. Roy explains his concern. He wants her to gain weight because she's been fainting frequently after he drinks her blood. The intimate act of hand-feeding her leaves Xiaoxin bewildered by this new tenderness in their relationship. Roy then escorts Xiaoxin to school personally, dropping her off outside her classroom. Some girls attempt to befriend her, but Xiaoxin remains wary of their intentions. Roy arrives to collect her, taking her hand and leading her back to the palace. At home, Roy presents Xiaoxin with an entire wardrobe of beautiful dresses. When she refuses to accept them, Roy doesn't listen to her protests. Instead, he pins her against the wall and kisses her passionately. Roy then establishes a new rule. He will kiss her every day, and tomorrow, Xiaoxin must kiss him first. If she fails to do so, he warns of different forms of punishment. That night, Xiaoxin lies awake thinking about Roy's words and his intentions. Suddenly, someone enters her room and sits in the chair. She looks up to see Roy's elder brother watching her. He cruelly reminds Xiaoxin that Roy only wants her because she resembles his former blood servant, Flay. The brother approaches her and observes that she seemed happy while kissing Roy, but warns that once Roy grows bored with her, he'll discard her from his life. Xiaoxin replies that even if this happens, it won't matter to her. The brother leaves after threatening her once more to stay away from Roy. When Roy visits her the next morning, Xiaoxin directly asks if she really looks like Flay. This question enrages Roy, who storms off after ordering her never to mention that name again. This reaction confirms Xiaoxin's suspicions that Flay still holds a place in Roy's heart. For the next 2 days, Roy doesn't visit Xiaoxin, leaving her deeply upset by his absence. At school, Xiaoxin sees Roy outside her classroom and tries to approach him, but he ignores her completely and walks away. She doesn't understand why she's becoming so upset over Roy's behavior and concludes that she must truly be just a replacement for Flay. Roy also struggles with ignoring Xiaoxin, though he tries to hide it. Winston notices Roy's troubled expression and suggests that he's genuinely in love with Xiaoxin. Roy becomes even more agitated and leaves abruptly. Later, Xiaoxin receives a letter supposedly from Roy, inviting her to meet him outside. When she arrives at the location, she encounters 3 classmates who attack her, beating her up and tying her to a railing. As Xiaoxin sits there bound and helpless, she reflects on all the moments she shared with Roy. Maya appears and attempts to kill Xiaoxin by drinking her blood, but suddenly someone intervenes to stop Maya. Roy arrives and kicks the attacker away from Xiaoxin. Feeling responsible for her condition, he becomes deeply disturbed seeing Xiaoxin unconscious and immediately brings her home. Sin informs Roy that Xiaoxin is out of danger. When she regains consciousness, Roy is sleeping beside her. Xiaoxin begins crying tears of joy at seeing him near her. When she asks why he came to save her, Roy deflects by saying that Xiaoxin is his personal blood servant and he cannot survive long without drinking her blood. However, Xiaoxin tells him to stay away from her because she's been thinking about him constantly and has started caring deeply for him. Roy is overjoyed by this confession and begins kissing her. When Xiaoxin mentions that she's still just Flay's replacement, Roy assures her that she's not a substitute, but has become an important part of his life. A few days later, when Xiaoxin feels well enough for an outing, Roy worries about her safety, but agrees to take her to visit the city. During their walk, a hungry child asks Roy for food. Xiaoxin expects Roy to react angrily to the human child and grabs his hand, preparing to lead him away to a restaurant. Instead, she watches in surprise as Roy speaks to a restaurant manager, who then provides the child with a bag full of food. Roy then brings drinks for both of them, and they share a peaceful moment together. After escorting Xiaoxin back to the palace, she begins to see a different side of the vampire prince. Sin advises Xiaoxin to open her heart to Roy, but she remains fearful because Roy is a vampire. Sin then reveals something personal. He shows her his eyes and explains that he's a mixed-blood vampire, which is why everyone except Roy has treated him with hatred. Roy was the only one who offered him friendship and acceptance. Sin offers to tell Xiaoxin about Roy's past, but decides against it, saying that such personal stories should come from Roy himself. This conversation leaves Xiaoxin lying in her room, desperately wanting to know more about Roy's history and realizing that she might truly be falling in love with him. Roy returns to find Xiaoxin looking upset and asks her what's wrong. She's shocked to see him and asks why he came back. Roy moves closer and admits that he was missing her. Xiaoxin smiles and teasingly asks why he's acting like a child. Roy playfully says she should be punished for laughing at her master, but he'll let it go because her smile makes him happy. Roy asks Xiaoxin to kiss him, and she willingly embraces him and complies. This marks a turning point where Xiaoxin finally reciprocates Roy's feelings openly. Later, Xiaoxin expresses her desire to return to school for upcoming exams. Since Roy is busy with official duties, Sin escorts her to school instead. The moment other girls see Xiaoxin with another man, they begin gossiping maliciously about her. Sin gives them a stern warning, and the girls flee in fear. Sin explains to Xiaoxin that Roy had been keeping her away from school specifically because of this kind of bullying. Xiaoxin goes to take her examination, but during the test, another girl accuses her of cheating. The teacher discovers a paper near Xiaoxin's seat and, despite her protests of innocence, refuses to listen to her explanations. Other students join in blaming her for the supposed academic dishonesty. At this crucial moment, Roy arrives at the school to defend Xiaoxin. He takes her hand and leads her outside in front of all the students. In a powerful and public declaration, Roy announces to everyone present that Xiaoxin is his personal blood servant and that anyone who dares to touch or harm her will become his personal enemy. This declaration brings the story full circle. Where their relationship began with enmity and fear, it now concludes with love and Roy's public protection of Xiaoxin. The same school setting that witnessed their first confrontation now becomes the stage for Roy's open commitment to her. This vampire romance beautifully explores themes of love, transcending differences, the power of understanding and acceptance, and how initial fear can transform into deep affection when we truly get to know someone. The relationship between Xiaoxin and Roy develops from hatred and terror to mutual care and protection, showing that even the most unlikely pairs can find love when they look beyond surface appearances and past traumas. That concludes our recap of this captivating vampire romance series. The story has come full circle from enmity to love, with Roy and Xiaoxin's relationship now publicly declared and protected. If you enjoyed this recap, please like the video and let us know in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.